Hey guys, and welcome back to Free Plugin Friday. This should actually be coming out on Christmas, the 25th. So Merry Christmas for all of you that celebrate Christmas, and hope you're having a decent kind of time, given the current climate of the world still, and I hope you're doing well. So today we're going to be quite quick with this review. It's a very simple plugin. It's the SK10 from Wavesfactory. Now, Wavesfactory have a couple of paid plugins that are really cool, like Cassette, but this is one of their 2 free plugins, and next week we'll look at the other one. But let's start with this one. It's basically a sub-kick simulator. So a sub-kick is a miking technique, normally using a speaker on the bass drum, and it gets you not much clarity, just heaps of low end. It gets you this real nice thud that you might not get from your other mics, especially if you're close miking right at the front at the beta. You get all the beta, but you don't get as much low end. So that's the idea between a sub kick. And so this plugin is kind of a simulator for the sub kick. It's almost like a subharmonic generator, allows you to get that heavy low end. And this is really cool, especially, I guess, if you're into more modern bass heavy kicks. And when I say modern, I mean post 70s really. I mean the 80s had heaps of these heavy low end kicks, because you can get more subby, more full on without just turning the bass up. So what I've done here to start off with, so we can go through the controls and such, is I've got it on the kick in. Now I'm using BFD3 for this, and BFD3 does have a kick sub track. You can see that here. But we've muted that, we've muted the kick out, because that's where I really get the low end from normally, and we've muted the kick sample. So we're just doing, what if you've only got one mic on the kick and it's a little bit thin, can you use this plugin to solve that? And we'll be looking at a few different techniques as well. But let's just start off with, let's look at the controls. So you've got a nice VU meter. You can have a look at in and out on the VU meter to make sure your levels are all good. There is no master volume control. That's, I guess, the only thing, because you're kind of mixing in, so you might lose volume. So you may need a gain plugin just to balance that out a little bit. You've got a low pass filter, which is great. So if you want this to generate, all the frequencies, fine. But if you just want really low subby stuff, you can obviously use a low pass filter, or you could use your own low pass filter or EQ. Mix control, so you can use it in this kind of mix. Now, what I don't quite understand is the minus 100. It seems to, I don't know why it says it like that, because that just seems to be dry and that's wet. But anyway, we'll go into that. But yeah, mix here is what I would call 50% mix, not 0. But anyway, and then you've got an amount, which is just how many decibels is the low end. And of course, full is your aggressive thing. Now, if you're using in parallel, which we will do, because that is a cool technique, because what it allows you to do then is treat this sub-created sound as a mic, as you would a sub-kick mic. Add its own EQ, compression, transient, designer, all that. You actually really can control it. It's really cool if you put a gate. So we will do that. But for now, we've got it in series on the kick in. So bypassed, this is what it sounds like. I'm just going to get this section and loop it. So this is EQ'd as well. It's the full mix. I haven't really touched the EQ. Now there is plenty of low end. So what I've done here, is added a little bit of a boost, and I've cut a lot of that. So it isn't bad, but let's go, I think we can just go the default. Double clicking gets the default. Let's put the sub kick on. Way more low end. Real punchy too. I'll just turn it up a little bit so you can really hear. So let's bypass it again. Bypassed. Now that it's gone, it really feels like it's missing. And let's put it back on. Huge, punchy. So let's bring the mix up to full so you can hear what it's doing. Okay, so let's listen to what it's actually doing. So I've turned the mix up on full so you can hear what the actual subharmonic generator is doing. So you can see it's pretty natural actually. It just has this very subby frequency. Now the tail is pretty long on this, that's why it's cool in parallel, because you can use a gate to control that tail. But it really depends on what sample or what kick you're using, how that actual transient is. So if we want to just make it more subby, we can use the low pass. So now we're only getting that low, and let's just turn it up a little bit. Now I'm probably starting to get a bit of saturation down the line. I've still kept all my subgroup stuff on, as probably you would have. So I've got some tape emulation and stuff like that. So yeah, of course, with anything with a lot of low end, a lot of signal, it is going to distort stuff down the line that you have in there, but you would if you also had that as a mic. So let's roll back the mix again. Now we've got the low pass, and you'll actually really be able to hear it. So we're going to go a bit heavy and see, you know, how those kind of lower mids feel with the low pass down here and up all the way. You can see that's completely changed that upper bass range because we're not low passing anymore. And bypassed. We're going super heavy-handed here just so you can hear it. So say that's what we like, let's listen to it in the mix. So I'm going to dial back the amount and the mix. So bypassed again. Maybe a little bit. And on. And let's put on all the drums. Like I said, the kick is probably a little bit loud. Like I've turned the kick up just so we can hear it. But let's bypass it again. Now we've got all the drums. Really doesn't have that big low end anymore. And put it back on. Huge and punchy, like massive. Now it could be too massive, but it definitely can give you that sound that you're lacking and you don't have to use samples. So I mentioned running it in parallel, and this is what we've done here. So what I've done on this instance, I've got it here. I've gone mix all the way, and I've set the low pass about here and the amount all the way up. Now what I've done here on my mix, so if we pull this up and go to the mix, you'll see here. Let's go to Sans. Where is it? Kick in. I have sent the sub kick to post fader send to here. So this is on a parallel effects bus. I've sent that. And then I've also sent it to the side chain of a gate. So let's pull the gate up. That side chain's on there. For some reason it was off. Anyway, so this is just a stock gate. We will bypass that for now. So we're in parallel. So I'm just going to dial it in. So if you see here, usually I have the mix in the other window, but because we're recording, you'll be able to see it. So I've got the sub kick here. So we can then dial it in. So let's the first thing we've got to do is turn off the instance we had before. So now we're doing a parallel send of that sub kick. Let's bring it in. Way too loud. Mute. Back on. Maybe about there. So way punchier, great, kind of low end. But maybe the tail's a bit long. So what we're going to do, I'm going to use the listen feature in Cubase so we can hear just the sub kick. We'll just turn it up just so we can hear it. And remember it's about there. So let's use the gate now. You can mess with the attack and release to basically get the kind of envelope you want. So gate off. Bit boomy. Gate on. So let's just, what we're going to do is stop it, and we'll just listen to just the kick with the sub kick with the gate on and off. Let's do this. Okay, gate off. You can hear it's kind of too boomy, so tighten up. And we'll bring it back down to here. I'm just going to move this. So no sub kick. Thin. Now it's thicker, punchy, but isn't too boomy, isn't gonna muddy up the low end, especially with the bass, which is great. And then of course, then you can EQ as well. So if we say we put an SS EQ, which is here, we could dial out some of that. You could find somewhere in the low mid you don't like, dial that out, maybe bring in some mids. Of course, with the low pass and stuff, I think, where's the low pass set? About 600. You know, any of that EQ is not going to do a lot. But let's just listen to it all together as the drums. So, mute the sub kick. Now, you can kind of hear the click of the kick, but for most of us, you're hearing room sound, and put the sub kick back in. Off again. That's enough of it. Just to kick up a bit. And sub kick back in. Bring it down a little bit. So, basic improvement. Like for me, I love big sounding kicks. You got to be very careful, but like even using 808s, adding them to your sound. So I mean, it doesn't have to be rock music like this. If you're using dance music and all that, hip hop, it could be really, really cool. But what about on other instruments? So what I want to do here is what we're going to do is mute the snare top, just get the snare bottom. Maybe for some reason your snare top mic doesn't work and you've got a snare bottom, but there's not enough low end. So let's just have a listen. That's not what I want. So I've added a lot of bottom here, but let's get rid of that. So this is how much bottom comes in originally. So let's now try it with the SK10 and see what we can get. So that's kind of got a bit of a knock going. Turn it off. Alright, so we probably need, this is where probably the gain, let's bring back the mix a little bit, get the amount up. So you don't have that punch, that low end kind of knock. Now you're simulating it. Now this is not what it's intended for, but it can be used really on anything that you need to add kind of that subharmonic thing to. The last I want to try it on is a bass, because bass is a big one for this. You want that low end. So we're going to do the same. Now again, I've got plenty of low end in my source, but we're going to kind of emulate what happens if you don't. So let's just just do that send. Cool. So let's add it on the bass and see what it does. Ooh, straight away, stock settings, that's way fatter. So let's listen to what it's doing. Even that's a cool bass sound. Like that's dub right there. That's like a dub bass sound. Turn it up a bit, the low pass filter, and you've got a decent bass sound. Let's bring the mix back. Okay, bypassed. A little bit thin, lacks a bit of low end growl. Now, of course, it depends on the music. This song is quite aggressive, so I'm not going for a huge dubby kind of reggae bass where I've got a lot of low end, but you might need that, or you just might have very thin sounding bass when DI'd. Maybe the pickups don't pick up a lot, maybe using single coils. And then just adding this just gives you a little bit of that fatness, a little bit of that low end heft. So bypassed again, pull the mix back a little bit, and now on. Almost like an octave lower effect without that awful synthiness. Just, yeah, that sounds really cool. Just bring the low pass down. Bypassed again. So what I want to do now is go back to basically how we had the drums. So add in the drums with the bass, and we turn sub kick off on the bass and on the drums. But we'll go back to the snare. I mean, I won't use the snare example. We'll go back to how the snare should sound. Okay, so let me just mute the sub kick and mute the bass sub kick. So a lot less low end going on. Put it back on the bass, and on the kick. Now you're obviously getting a little bit more volume. Like I said, you're going to have to match that with gain, but you can really hear you've improved that low end. So that has been the SK10 Subkick Simulator from Wavesfactory. Go grab it. I think it could solve a lot of problems or just enhance your mixing. Now, like I said, if you're doing hip hop or dance music, it could be really cool to give like maybe on impacts or anything you just want a lot more low end, and turning up the bass just doesn't necessarily do it for you. You need something that kind of creates low end that isn't there. So go check out SK10. Again, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Really, really appreciate it. Almost at 2,000 subscribers, which would be super awesome. And again, I hope your holiday season is going well. Look out for more Free Plugin Friday, and I'll see you next time.